Sis and Tell, a whole lot of talk, a whole lot of nothing. Amanda does stand up, Alison's on TV, and when they hop on the phone, you already know it's the place you wanna be. Sis and Tell, the podcast that's so sweet. Oh, Sis and Tell, Sis and Tell, a whole lot of talk about, a whole lot of nothing. Sis and Tell.
Hey, Allie.
Hi, man. How are you?
I have a question for you.
Okay.
What is the most bizarre thing you have ever put on your face?
The most bizarre thing I've ever put on my face. I don't put a lot of things on my face.
So I was just looking through my makeup bag and I saw this lip gloss that my friend gave me and I used it and it was one of those lip plumpers, right? So it's this lip gloss. It makes your lips tingle and then it's supposed to make them plump up. And I find that to be so bizarre. Like you're basically giving yourself an allergic reaction so your lips are plump. And it's so
Yes.
and it's so weird. Like we put the weirdest things on our face. Like men don't do that. They don't go and put things that give themselves allergic reactions on their face to make it look prettier.
That's
Like
because men have to shave, right? So they're already dealing with like the bumps and the razor burn and like whether you use aftershave. They've got a lot to deal with their face. If I had to shave my face every day, I think that would be enough anxiety. I wouldn't care about plumping anything else up.
well, I'm a little anxious about having to shave my face every day. Remember my dermatologist said, I was like, hey, can I have some Retin-A? And he's like, or you can shave your face.
Yeah.
I still
I
can't
don't
get
do
over
the
that.
face shaving. Yes.
Well, it's like sloughing off. That's the point. The Retin-A, it takes off like a layer, but you also
Mhm.
have to use some sort of exfoliator. But shaving your face does that. But those things, they make those things. They sell them at like Marshall's.
Oh,
I mean,
I
you can
know.
get them anywhere.
Yeah.
It's like the little blade, and it's supposed to like get off peach fuzz. But you're basically shaving your face. They're just not calling it a razor because that freaks women out. But it's like our version of shaving our face.
Well, the last time you mentioned this, someone actually sent us those little mini razor things, and I found them the other day in a closet.
Yeah.
Actually, I think maybe Abe found them. He's like,
What are
"Why do you
these?
have these?" I said, "Because Amanda mentioned them on a podcast, and someone sent them, and I never did anything with them." I was like, "You can have them. Give them away." I
Well,
don't
someone
need them.
also sent you Preparation H.
Yeah,
And did
Preparation H
oh
sent me
yeah,
Preparation H.
Preparation H sent us
That's
that.
exactly. And now, okay, did you see the story that ran this week about the guy who ate McDonald's for 100 days?
I mean, there's a whole documentary about it.
Right. There's a whole
The
documentary on this but most of the
Super Size
documentary,
Me.
Super Size Me, right? That's where he went in. So this is the opposite of Super Size Me. This is Half Size Me. Okay, this guy 100 days ago or more gets on the internet and basically says, "I'm overweight." He might be 60, let's say. He's like, "I'm overweight. I need to shed some pounds. So where am I heading right now? McDonald's." And and this video went viral. I never saw the
It's like
original video.
Jared. I mean, Jared from Subway, we don't really like to talk about him.
Right. Yeah,
We
he's
don't
now
talk about him anymore because he's got,
the
you know,
Subway spokesperson who shall not be named.
you shall not be.
Yes.
He did that. That was on his own volition before there was the internet. Really,
Yes.
that was before. I don't even know how he ended up going viral with like his Subway diet and how people found out about it. But so this guy's on the McDonald's diet.
Right. And I forgot about Jared. You're right. So Jared shall not be Subway named, did the Subway diet and lost all of this weight and then became the spokesperson. This guy decided he was going to do the same thing. He said, I'm going to McDonald's, but here's the thing. I'm only going to eat McDonald's for 100 days and I'm only going to eat half the meal. So you've heard of a Happy Meal? This is a halfy meal. He's only eating half of what they give. And so he did this for 100 days. He shed something like 20 pounds, maybe more. He shows up on the Today Show this morning, which I'm thinking,
Well, 20
are
pounds
we
is not
really?
that much for a guy.
But for 100 days, I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty quick.
Yeah.
So basically in 3 months, that's quick. And he shows up for the Today Show. He is like a shell of himself. He's not like skinny, but he definitely looks good. And of course, I'm saying to the TV, yeah, but what is your cholesterol? And you probably have all these blocked arteries. his blood work is better than it was 100 days ago. His cholesterol's down, this is down, and it's amazing. And he really went on to say, look, I'm not a spokesperson for McDonald's. I have I think his last name is McInnes, and so people have always called him Big Mac, so that's a funny tie-in just naturally. But he says it's really about eating in moderation. He said, the reason I lost weight is because I ate half of what I would normally eat or ever eat. He says, if you want to lose weight, cut everything in half. If you want to maintain, cut everything, by a quarter. You only eat 3/4 of it. And then if you don't care, just eat what you want. So Alan is watching this with me.
Yeah.
He's like,
What?
I'm going to McDonald's. I'm going to start eating McDonald's. I go, no, but here's the problem. The guy never snacked. I'm not sure about drinking alcohol. He didn't have dessert. He
Was he
literally only
hungry?
ate 3 meals a day, and he was hungry. He said by the time he got to the next meal, he could feel that he was really hungry. He could feel that. I am not suggesting that everybody go on a McDonald's quote unquote diet. I don't really think in the long term that can be healthy for you. But it is about moderation, right? It's just about, eating half. I looked at him. I said, no, we should just do what we normally do, but eat
But in
half of it.
half. So
Yeah.
here's a question for you. If you had to choose one restaurant to eat at for 100 days, what restaurant would that be? I might have to put parameters on it.
Okay. Oh, does it have to
Like
be a fast food restaurant?
like it let's say no, but it can't be like with a waitress, sit down. Like something quick, but it doesn't have to be a chain. Does that make sense?
Well, but anything that doesn't have a waitress and sit down is going to be a chain.
Okay. Well, we've
Right.
got stuff that's not a chain where you go up to the
Okay.
counter and order
Right.
and it's
Well,
not a chain.
there's two different answers.
Well, I guess it is a chain because there are
Fine.
multiple locations. But I mean, like, look, pick whatever.
No, that's
Whatever.
easy.
Fine.
It's very
Pick
easy. I
whatever.
know
What is
exactly
your
what I would eat every day.
what?
Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yeah.
It's delicious. It's delicious. I only eat it now on road trips, but it is delicious. I don't think anything can beat the original Chick-fil-A sandwich. And then they have the chicken mini biscuits and they have the spicy chicken. I could maybe I should do the Chick-fil-A diet and go in and eat half of a meal every day for 100 days.
Go do it. But it depends on the meal.
But it does depend on the meal.
You
What would
know.
you eat? What would be your restaurant?
God, I mean, I would try and pick something that has a lot of diversity to it. But I have to say, as much as I don't want to, it would probably be Chick-fil-A. They've got a delicious kale salad that I just love.
Yeah.
Have
They have a lot of offerings now.
Have
and
you
s-
had
and
that
very
kale
healthy.
salad? And then you can get grilled chicken, and it's
Yeah.
I
I've had the grilled chicken bites too. I had those during Passover. They were not as delicious as the regular, I will say, but they were a decent substitute when I was desperate to have gluten-free options.
and Chick-fil-A, they have ice, right?
They
Have
have
really
good
good
ice.
ice. Their
Yeah.
ice is delicious.
Okay, if you've never had the Chick-fil-A, then we're going to get off food because I'm getting hungry. If you've never had a frozen lemonade at a Chick-fil-A, anybody listening to this, if you're driving right now, just go find a Chick-fil-A, drive through and say, I just heard on a podcast that I need a frozen lemonade. Maybe they'll even give it to you for
Okay,
free.
but here's
It's
the thing.
delicious. It's delicious.
We have no clout with Chick-fil-A.
No, we
Okay. Number two, the frozen lemonade is really a milkshake. It is like a lemon. Like I would say I'd compare it more to like a creamsicle, but like lemon flavored creamsicle.
Yes.
Because
Well, it's basically lemonade and vanilla ice cream. Okay, you just ruined it for everybody.
I did
But
not ruin it for everyone. It's just like saying like go have a frozen coffee and it's really a coffee ice cream milkshake.
wait, what?
If you
No,
are
just
if you are lactose intolerant, you need to know these things. And a lot of our audience is Jewish and we have a huge sensitivity to lactose. So I feel like it is our duty. It's our duty to warn everyone. It is
Well-
not a lemonade based broth.
right.
It's
Well, I will
dairy.
say I was driving through Chick-fil-A years ago and they had an extra frozen lemonade, which may or may not have been a ploy just to get us to get addicted to it. And they gave it to us and we're like, well, we didn't order it. They're like, we know we have an extra. Trust us, you'll want it. And literally, this is like in the middle of COVID. There were 4 of us in the car. It was me and Alan and Arthur and his friend. We didn't even care. We all 4 shared it. We were all drinking out of the same cup. It was that delicious. So that's it. Frozen lemonade. I'm gonna stick to my Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A for 100 days. But
Yes.
if I had to eat half of a meal, half of a sandwich, that would be very hard. And then what did he do with the other half? That's what I don't know. I don't feel good about him wasting the other half.
Did he
Did
save
he
it for the
save it?
next day?
Yeah, I don't think so.
That's
It
a lot
didn't
of
sound
food
like it.
waste.
It's a
Arthur
lot of
would
food
not
waste.
be. Arthur would not like that.
No, he could have composted the other half, but
I don't
I
know.
don't
Can
know.
you compost McDonald's?
I don't know
I
if
don't
that would
think you
ever
can because
compost.
in Super Size Me, he also like took McDonald's and put it under a glass dome and watched it for like 7 months and nothing ever happened to it. Like it never
Yeah.
molded. It's got so many chemicals in it. So, you
Well,
know,
I have been very stressed out this week.
about
And that's
what?
because, well, as you know, I had braces when I was little. And then I never wore my retainer. And then I got a new retainer. And then I lost it, never wore that. And then that was the end of the story. And then during COVID, while doing a selfie video, I realized just how janky and crooked my bottom teeth were, especially. And it never bothered me before, but then it bothered me. So I decided to do Invisalign. Really, this brand Sure Smile. It doesn't matter. Everybody knows Invisalign through my orthodontist. So I finished the 15 months of the Invisalign, and now I've got a night guard, right? And that's also like keeping my teeth straight. I've got an insert in the bottom, like a permanent retainer, but also a bottom retainer. All this to say is over the weekend, over Memorial Day weekend, the bottom retainer broke in half, like just cracked.
Like the
I'm
one
like,
that's attached to your teeth
no, not the
broke?
one attached, luckily, but the one that I insert just at night.
Why
So,
do you need a permanent retainer? I understand why you need a night guard. That's for a whole different reason.
yes.
But why do you need two different retainers? That seems
Okay, that's going
ridiculous.
down a different rabbit hole. I don't know, but I
It's
do for some reason to keep my teeth in place, which I'm happy to maintain. I will wear these retainers till I'm 100, and that way I'll just take out my teeth and place them in the retainer and they'll keep their shape. Um, but they broke. So then, of course, I have to wait 3 days till it's not Memorial Day. I text the doctor's office, my retainer broke. Can you make me a new one? And she says the following, text back the following. No problem. Just bring in your molds when you have a chance.
oh no. Why would you have your molds?
Thank you.
Why
Okay.
would
I
they
was
not keep your molds? You should not be held responsible. That's ridiculous.
Thank you.
Wouldn't you
Thank
pay?
you.
There should be a safety deposit box for the molds. You would pay an extra fee for them to hold on to the molds.
So what happens? I looked at this text and I'm like, molds? I have my molds? I don't think I have my molds.
They're
And she
underneath the
write down
sink. Did you look?
so, and I also have a drawer dedicated to all things teeth oriented,
Okay.
specifically to my retainers, all this stuff. So I was like, I'm going to check, but I do not recall, which doesn't mean much. I don't recall a lot of things. I have a terrible memory. So I'm like, but I'm going to go and check because the only thing I remember getting is a second upper retainer, but I don't remember getting anything like mold related or
Oh
mold related, I should
no.
say. So I go and check the special drawer and I text her back. I said, I do not have it. She said, well, in your records, it says on March, blah, 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 we gave them to you. I'm like,
Oh,
oh
that's
no.
so mean.
Well, then she says,
That's so mean. Well, you signed a
right.
waiver saying you took the molds into your possession.
We have proof, and a notary has officially
Right?
documented this. So then she says to me, this is all on text, check the trunk of your car. And I'm like, why? And she goes, we tell people that once they get them to keep them in their car, like usually in the trunk, because if you happen to be at a doctor's appointment and we notice a crack in one of your retainers, you already have them with you. You don't have to run home
Oh,
and get
that's
them.
so
I said, oh, that's
smart.
smart. And then I thought to myself, oh, maybe that
Oh,
sounds familiar.
did you get
So,
rid of your car with the Can you imagine someone
right.
buying a used car and they're like, "What's this in the trunk?" And
What are
it's
these teeth? Oh, wow, I could make my own teeth in just 1 minute with plaster and these molds. So I go in, I dump out everything from my trunk. The good news is I officially have 27 reusable grocery bags in
Oh,
the
that's
back of
so
my car.
many.
So I never have an excuse for not having enough grocery bags, which is literally a common occurrence at the grocery. The bad news is there were no molds to be found.
But you checked the glove compartment, right?
And then I checked the glove compartment because I thought, well, I probably didn't think that putting it in the trunk would be a good idea. Check the glove compartment. No. Then I even have like a thing, a console in between my two front seats. It's not in there.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay.
Is there a
So
secret drawer underneath one of the seats? Because in one of the minivans we had that, and I totally forgot about it. And there's a secret drawer.
no, not only is there no secret drawer, but my car doesn't even have anything under the seats. There's nothing. There's so these are nowhere to be found. So I call, and of course at this point I'm like, they have documentation. Clearly they told me. I'm sort of remembering her maybe saying putting in the trunk, but now I can't remember.
Maybe it's
It
in
only
Alan's car.
No, I never drive Alan's car. And
Okay.
this is like not from like a year ago. She had it documented from March. This is only like 2 months ago.
Oh, Allison, what? This
So
is
I
from 2
said,
months ago?
I know. So I got very upset. I was like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do next. The worst case is they make me come in and get another
Ugh,
mold made, which is
so
the grossest
gross.
thing
It's
ever.
so gross.
And I was like, but I think for these, they just scan my teeth, which also is going to cost me. I'm like, I'll pay for whatever it is. I've got to get this retainer. I'm so sorry. She's like, okay, well, let me talk to the doctor and let me just check upstairs, right, in our molds vault. So at this point, I head to the station. I have to go do some voiceover. As soon
Yeah.
as I see like my producer and editor, I'm like, you're not going to believe it. And I started telling them all about the molds, and they have the same reaction. Like, why do you? And I kept saying, of course, now I'm doing like, it's like blaming them. I'm like, why in the world would they give anyone the molds? Why would?
Right.
Guess what? My boys, right? They both, the older two had braces. They have their molds because I'm like thinking back, and they got theirs at 16. And at one point they had to bring it in. I'm like, where are your molds?
We
They are
never
very expensive. They
Oh.
have them. And
Oh, we
I
don't
came
have
home and
our
I said to
molds.
Abe, where are your molds? He goes, Arthur and I keep them next to our bed. Like, we know exactly where our molds are because
Oh.
they scare them to death about it. So I get to the station. I'm in the middle of recording like a voiceover, and I usually turn off my phone, but I forgot, and the phone starts ringing, and it's the orthodontist. And so I stop and I look at my producer. I go, hold on. I've got to take this. It's
It's an
about the
emergency.
molds. And
Right.
she's like, hi. I'm like, hi. And she's like,
Oh, you've been shamed. That's so
I've
sad.
been mold shamed. She says, I am so sorry. We have them here. She had the molds the whole time. I am redeemed. I didn't forget. They never gave them to me. She didn't notice that there was an additional notation after the one that said they gave them to me, saying they didn't give them to me because the doctor wanted to do something or something. She's like, we have it. We're creating this. We're going to get you the entertainer. And I was so happy to not have lost the molds or
And that you
forgotten
weren't
they gave me the
crazy.
molds. So from now on, but it does beg the question, why in the world would they give the patient the molds? Why do I need to keep it? Like, if they were retiring, if the doctor's retiring, or they think, I mean, if I'm transferring
They
to a new
probably don't.
orthodontist,
After
I
a
don't get it.
while, you run out of space and it becomes like the Indiana Jones warehouse of teeth molds.
But don't you think there might be an industry now, like you said, like
Right.
a safety deposit box just for teeth molds? I would gladly give
Just
somebody my molds just to hold on to.
a teeth mold storage unit. You
Yeah.
could start, this is a business. Look, there's a need, there's a demand. We could start it, Allie. It wouldn't take up that much space. It's like where people keep urns, but it's
Uh-huh.
teeth molds.
Teeth molds are us.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We need
Yeah.
to work on that, you know?
Right.
But Jeffrey the giraffe is out of a job. So maybe instead of, he doesn't
And his
represent
teeth are
Toys R Us
pretty
anymore.
his teeth need some work too. But
Yeah.
how impressed am I with my own children that they actually know where their molds are? They've kept
So
them.
impressed. This is like down to the trope that Jewish mothers are proud, can find anything to be proud of their kids over. My
I'm so proud of
author
you.
and my Abe, they are so responsible that they keep the teeth molds right next to the table in case they lose the retainer, which they would never do because they are so responsible. I'm just saying.
You know,
My
not
heart.
all Jewish mothers are from New York, but you
No.
turn us into New Yorkers
I
every time.
know.
You feed
I
into the
can't
stereotype.
I can't
I
help
know.
it. You know, when I first started talking about mommy on stage, I started doing a New York accent. And then I had to stop myself and basically say to the audience, okay, so just note,
Ah,
I am doing a New York accent right now. My mom actually has a Southern accent because, as I've stated, we are Alabama Jews. There's no New York accent. And also, like, I've gone through situations where people have been so confused about me being from Alabama, and they're like, "But you're not. You didn't grow up in New York." And I'm like, no. And they're like, well, did your parents grow up in New York? And I'm like, no. And they're like, your grandparents? I'm like, no. And then we get into like Eastern Europe, right? But it's because people think
Right.
that all Jews are from New York, and I'm like, no, we're also from Boca. So
Exactly. You know what I found out recently though, that New Yorkers love Southerners. And specifically, New Yorkers who vacation apparently love Southern female nannies.
what are you talking about? Is this in reference to like a TV show?
No, but
I-
in addition to starting our molds storage business, I want to be
yeah.
very clear, that's not molds storage business. We need to figure out how to do a Southern nanny service. Here's what I'm talking about.
Are you saying like that New Yorkers want to hire nannies that are from the South?
Thank you. Yes, you got to there quickly. And the reason I know this, and I'm making a complete generalization about all New Yorkers and all Southern nannies, is because one of Abe's best friends from high school, okay, you're going to follow this? He goes to Auburn,
Okay.
and his girlfriend is going to be, and who's also from the South, whose girlfriend who goes to Auburn is going to be a nanny on in New York this summer in the Hamptons.
Oh,
Okay,
this is
she
going to
has
go
no idea what
well.
the Hamptons is.
Oh,
She
no.
found this job because apparently these young women from Ole Miss started this like nanny business, and because I'm like, wait, how did she get a job being a nanny in the Hamptons from Auburn? Who does she know somebody? He goes, no, these women that went to Ole Miss started this thing. And then he says to me, apparently these Southern women, college kids, are very sought after by the New York moms
Oh,
because
gosh.
they like having a Southern woman nannying their kid. And I'm like, that's the funniest thing I have ever heard. And
I'm
it
not
should be a
sure.
show. It sounds like a
Yes.
reality show,
I know.
right?
We got to go call Julie Burke and let her know about that because that's immediately what I thought. That's how my brain works. I'm like, this needs to be a reality show. It's
Yeah.
probably coming soon, next year, next season. They need a couple of seasons of figuring out. That is like a total mix
It's a
of,
lot to unpack. Yeah.
right? And also to stereotype. Is it
Right.
is it Jewish New Yorkers who are hiring
Well, that's why I
not
said, I go, can you
non-Jewish,
imagine? It's probably a
like
lot of these Jewish moms, not to stereotype, but I think it's people of all faith in the Hamptons, I'm going to assume, and they're hiring. I don't know how many they place. I did a search for Ole Miss nanny service. I didn't find anything. So I don't know if it's like an underground thing or if you have to know somebody to know. They're
But
clearly
she
not
doesn't
letting
does she
old
go to
Southerners access it.
wait, does she go to Ole Miss?
No, no, she goes to Auburn, but I guess
Oh,
there is
okay.
this network, either between the sororities down there or something. All this stemmed from that well, you've seen it. I haven't watched it. That terrible documentary out called Bama Rush. Is that what
But
it's called?
yeah, but why do you say it's terrible? You say it's terrible because you heard it's boring or because it's depicting sorority life at Alabama in a not so great way?
No, that I'm fine with. I heard it's boring.
It's just not good TV watching.
I heard it's just not good TV. I'm fine with trash TV that's throwing people under the bus. I'm not gonna,
But you
publicize
haven't
it.
watched it. I have.
Right. I
Okay.
stated that. I've only heard from people who I trust who are trying to help me maximize my binge watching allocated time that said, don't even bother.
Gosh.
It's terrible.
So first of
Are they
all,
wrong? Are they wrong?
there's no binge watching because it's one like 90-minute documentary. And I found that very confusing because it sounded like it was a whole series, which I think if this had been the introduction to everything that happens on campus, then I'm hooked. But I was like, wait, that's it? That's what was disappointing.
Wait, so
And
back up. So for people who don't know, right? And I did not rush a sorority because there were none at Brandeis. And so I've never been part of the sorority movement or fraternity movement. I don't know anything about it, but I do know that in colleges all over the country, especially big schools, and then take it up a notch. The big schools, the big state schools in the Southeast and the SEC, that sorority rush is apparently a whole other animal, right?
but
And
then
they
at
call it
Alabama,
at
yeah.
Alabama, I think it's called the machine. I mean, that's why there is like it is a very
But they never
intricate system, and there's a lot about it. And apparently, they send in people with secret microphones or
No.
cameras to infiltrate the system.
No,
That's what
that
it was plugged as.
That is not what happened.
Okay,
Okay.
it did happen.
So first of all, I don't even know if we stated we're talking about Bama Rush. Bama Rush, all of that started because of a TikTok trend, right? This one sorority young woman started going through all of her clothes from head to toe, what she was wearing. Okay. She's like, earrings from Nordstrom's, dress from Hello Molly, shoes from Amazon. And then all of these people started following suit at Bama, going through their outfits. It became kind of iconic. People started knocking it off, both as a parody and trying to parrot them. So they people became so deeply ingrained into this subculture, this sorority life subculture, specifically at the University of Alabama. This woman,
Roll
um,
Tide.
Roll Tide, this woman, Rachel Flight, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, did a documentary about it. And there's all this controversy going on in the middle of the documentary about whether or not there's hidden microphones and hidden cameras, and there's not. And they legally couldn't do it, first of all. But also, she's at one point, she's like the University of, like, she gets contacted by the University of Alabama and the FBI in the middle of the documentary. And
Why?
she's, because rumors spread that she was sending in these young women who were basically wired and they weren't. And this one young woman who was rushing got kicked out of the whole entire rush because she had taken a ponytail holder and tied up the back of her top to make it like a crop top and tighter, and had tucked it in. Someone saw the black, thought it was a wire, and they didn't even let her like stand up for
Oh,
herself.
come on.
So she got blacklisted from even rushing. She went to the head of like the Panhellenic Society there, and they said, sorry, it's done. Like, they didn't even give her an opportunity to like formally go through any sort of process of proving whether or not this happened. It was like a thing. And people kept on talking about the machine, but they never defined what that meant. They just kept on saying, the machine's never going to let this happen. But I'm like, can we do an episode just on the machine? I'm excited for the machine and to hear more
Yeah.
about that. And then it ended. Ruby and I were like, what? This was just it was just one episode. I
So
wanted more.
What did you learn? Did you learn anything from it?
It really followed a handful of women going through the process of Rush at Alabama. It was about their stories, their, their lives before, during, and eventually after. They just kind of said, so and so got into this sorority, so and so dropped out of Rush. And it was just like a little window into the subculture. I don't feel like it got deep enough. And it kind of felt like maybe she was stopped during the process, right? Like, I think maybe, and this is a conspiracy theory, that the documentary was planning on going deeper, and she maybe got some cease and desist from the University of Alabama. I mean, look, the university brought in the FBI to contact her. That's crazy. That's crazy. But you know how networking, quote unquote, works in the South, especially University of Alabama, when you've got big donors who are a huge part of the sorority system. You're worried about the reputation, not only of the sorority system, the Greek system, Greek life, and the University of Alabama. They didn't know what was going to come out. So I think they got really scared. She does talk
Yeah.
about, racism within the Greek community. They didn't even get into that heavily the African American sororities and fraternities and the history of that. They briefly touched on that, right? But that's they don't, like, now there's no Jewish sorority at University of Alabama, but there used to be.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, that, like, STD still exists, right? Which is not a venereal disease. It is the name of one of the traditional.
It's not STD. It's SDT, Sigma Delta
That's
Tau.
what I said.
You said STD.
I started off saying SDT, didn't I?
No, because you said it's not a
Whatever.
venereal disease.
Right, because it sounds like that's what I'm saying. But, like, that's why I'm like, there's this whole history. I think it's fascinating, the Greek system, the history of the Greek system. I mean, Dad's got stories. He went to the University of Alabama in the mid-60s. So he's got stories of being in a Jewish fraternity and crosses being burned in front of his fraternity house. But also, this woman said that happened when she was there in like the early 2000s. As a joke, they had a cross burned in front of their sorority house.
Yeah, that
so,
sounds hilarious. Let me tell you.
Right, but they don't like they didn't they just it was like the tip of the iceberg. I thought it was going to be a series. It's not. That's the end of
Well,
all.
and I think now we know the power of the machine. It closed it down,
Right.
right? I mean, we don't need a whole documentary on it. We've seen the evidence of it. And it's probably a lot of the things that, either whether it was rumor or not, there might have been a little truth to some of the rumors that went around, and that's what got shut down. And so I think there was probably pressure for her to put out something, and this was the
Yeah.
result. And probably the hype is what got people to watch it. But now, thank you. This 10-minute conversation has saved me
I really
an hour and a
do.
half of time I couldn't get back.
I think this is an edited down version of what she probably originally wanted to put out, and that she was stopped from doing a full, what's it called? When you're a journalist and you dive into something and you uncover things. What is that called?
It's
an expose. What is it?
A full
It's
expose.
Just like an expose on what it was. It was just, Anyways. Well, thanks for listening to the latest Sis Tell podcast. Don't forget to share us with your friends, share us with your family, share us with your foes.
As always, this has been Amanda and Allison with a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. We'll catch you next time.